name is Georgia Fields, and I'm from the Kansas City Public Library, and our group had a nice mix of people from the libraries and people from outside of the libraries giving us ideas on what we could do with this connection. And something that we're really concerned about in libraries is bridging the digital divide. So something that kept coming up over and over again in our conversations is, what if we had free public Wi-Fi? What could we do with that? All these services are being provided in the cloud now, so it's not necessary to have this really high-powered hardware. We can do it just in internet space. So what would we do if everybody could have a device and everybody could get connected to the internet? And then that opens the door, well, what do people do with all this information? They're not used to all of this access to everything that we're creating, and some of the ideas that Simon's going to throw out as well. Well, libraries can be the intermediaries for this content. We can show what you can do. We can provide the path. If you're a new entrepreneur, what do you need to do next? If you're a parent that all of a sudden has some of these tools that they're talking about with education, what can you help? How does that help you be a better parent for your student that's going through school? So we had another idea. The library is a data center, and I'm going to pass it off to Simon.
Hi, my name is Simon Cole of Lightthread and Westside Studio. And when we started into kind of how to use gigabit broadband, one of the concerns we had was, hey, there are a lot of applications out there, a lot of broadband applications, but how many of them actually need to use a gigabit? And so then we started thinking through, okay, well, how can, if you think through, well, how are others doing this? There are certainly countries around the world, like South Korea, Japan, that have had gigabit services for much longer than we have, at least 6 months ahead of us. What are they doing? And the short answer is, they're downloading movies really fast. So that's not really a rich source of ideas. But when you think about the library as a public resource, what is the library? The library is this repository of really great content that you can go to. It's a meeting space. It's meeting spaces that people can go to and interact. It's a way for people to get access to resources they don't have access to. So what if we extended that idea of the library as a public resource, not only leveraging the broadband that's coming in here and deploying, say, Wi-Fi antennas here and in the 50,000 other spots that we're going to have broadband, creating the biggest Wi-Fi mesh network probably in the United States. That's one element of it. What if it was the biggest content repository that we could also have? That if it was the source of data that was more than just the books that we have. And when you start thinking about, okay, gigabit, well, how can you use that? Well, within the context of the United States, most people aren't going to have a gigabit access in their homes, but will have a gigabit here. So what other type of structure or thing has that kind of bandwidth requirement? And the short answer is, well, data centers. And the interesting thing is, well, books are already repositories of information. What if we extended the idea and made a repository for more than just book-type information? What if there were servers in this basement because you had a gigabit, which is about the same amount of bandwidth a big data center has, and you had servers down there, and the servers served up digital content, and that digital content could be curated by people at the library, because one of the biggest problems you have on the internet today is that there's a lot of information, but how much of it is good information? And here you have the resources, the experts, who can point you to the really compelling information. Well, if you have servers in the library, what's to stop you from then serving up more than just that digital content and making that library a true data center and being able to serve up applications? In one fell swoop with servers in the basement of the library, you can open that environment up to anyone who wants to have a tech startup and actually make those development hosting environments and open up sandboxes for tech entrepreneurs, essentially lowering their cost for starting businesses to zero. And they can go into these environments, build out their applications, and those applications can use the content that's already in the library to be used. And again, you start seeing this idea extending into all dimensions of what we do in the city, in the country. Because the next step, which we'll get into, is then repurposing that content and using it to create more informed voters, using it to create people who are more informed about civic issues, and then able to help us make better decisions, vote for better propositions.
Yeah, building tools on top of all of that data to combine those data things in new different ways. If you're taking pictures, if you're creating art, you can create applications that allow you to kind of mash that up with all of the content that's being pulled together into this data center. And then again, entrepreneurs can develop the apps on top.
Yeah, and libraries are already doing things like digesting information about public issues that are up for vote. And so it's easy then to look at that model, the availability of that content, broadening that, and creating the library into a virtual town hall where you have access to the content, to the experts. People can weigh in on issues at home because you have the capacity now to broadcast live all those important issues that only a few people can go and be involved in. You know, it ends up being the people in the room who can discuss those important issues and provide opinions about what directions our city should go. Now you can open that up to anybody, not just, you know, people all over the municipality who don't have time to come down to City Hall or wherever the meeting's being held to discuss those important issues. And that creates then a better informed and more empowered body of voters that then hopefully makes better decisions.